They say, though honestly I don't know who they are, that the third time is the charm. What do you think? Should we find out? Let's go. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Trish, and this is Wheeltrish Knits My Life in Yarn. And this is episode 3. 3! Can you believe it? I'm back again. I don't know if I have much to talk about this week, but I'm hoping you'll stick with me and that we have a good time. First of all, I want to say thank you for sticking with me so far through my first couple of episodes. Last episode was my list of podcasts that I watch regularly. And you know what? I have a new one this week that I'd like to share. It's called The Overdue Knitter, and the host is Tiffany. And I knew that we were kindred spirits when she started by saying that she has close to 70 works in progress. 70. Yes. It actually turned out to be something like 66, but who's counting when you get up to that level? I really enjoyed her first couple of episodes that she has out, where she is fessing up to her whip pile and dividing them into categories and hopefully coming up with strategies for conquering them. And I am looking forward to watching her journey and seeing how it goes. Um, she and I seem to have a similar affinity for Disney, and also um, I noticed one of her pile piles had some shawls and things in it, and one of them was a Color Affection shawl by Vera Velimaki, and I've started no less than 4 of them throughout my knitting career. I finished one which I gave to a friend in 2013, but then when I started to make one for myself, that's where I had a big fail, and I have never actually completed any of them for myself. And finally, a couple of years ago, a friend of mine from my Sunday night Zoom knitting group um, took one of my Color Affection shawls. Um, she asked me to send it to her, and she said she would finish it. And my goodness, did she ever! Not only that, but it turns out that our gauges were so completely different that she basically started the shawl over and had it done in a couple of weeks. And, you know, I had had it on my needles for months and months, and it hadn't gotten anywhere. So I was so very grateful to have that shawl back and have it completed. Um, but I know that it is kind of a pesky thing to finish, and um, one of these days I'm going to make another one for myself. But for now, I'm just very happy to have the one that my friend completed for me. Um, but so that's how I knew that this other person from the Overdue Knitter and I were probably very similar. It seems like we have similar taste in knitted objects and a lot of similar outcomes. Sometimes there's a cat involved, or sometimes we get all the way to the end and we just can't imagine weaving in all those ends, or who knows what. But she inspired me to have another good hard look at my whips. So I will be doing that probably over the next couple of weeks so I can decide what in the world to do with them. Anyway, so go check her out. Her name is Tiffany, and again, her channel is called The Overdue Knitter, and I really enjoyed watching her, and I hope you will too. Anyway, so the next thing I wanted to talk about is an update on my blanket project. It's getting so big now. I am so very pleased with the progress. It's hard for me to hold stuff up because I don't really stand up at all. So I'm just going to insert a picture right over here so that you can see where I'm at. You can see that the blanket almost touches my toes and it comes up pretty high on my chest. So I'm thinking maybe one more full color repeat in the blanket. There are 3 full repeats now, and so I'm thinking maybe a 4th repeat will do the trick, and then maybe we'll be ready for the border at that point. Which means maybe I have 6 or 7 more weeks of knitting before the border, and then I don't really know how long the border is going to take. I'm hoping not too long, but we'll see. I already know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to talk about that more when the time comes, so that I can be talking about current events, if you will. So, anyway, yeah. Somebody asked me last week, what kind of needles do I use? So here's the thing. Interchangeable needles are probably among the most popular types of needles that most people that I know in the knitting community use. Um, but for some reason, I don't know if it's because I wrap my yarn differently, or twist my needles a little bit as I'm knitting, or what, but I have never had a interchangeable needle, no matter how tight it's put together. I've never had one that didn't come apart, with one exception. The original version of the Chalgu Forte needles that were completely made from the African blackwood and came with the Swiv 360 cords, those needles never came apart on me. And so I've been able to use them fairly successfully. However, I tend to use the same size of needle over and over and over again across multiple projects. So a lot of the needles I use most often from that set are already deployed on other things. And so I don't really get a chance to use them as often as I'd like. So, given that, I mostly actually use Chalgu red lace fixed circular needles. They're easily available from a ton of sources. They're not very expensive. They are just pointy enough without being killer pointy, or pointy enough that they would split yarn really badly. I tried to knit with some Addy Turbos uh, recently, or some type of Addy needle, and I was trying to start a pair of socks with them, and they split the yarn so terribly when I was just at at the beginning of the toe, where I usually do my socks toe up. So I just had this little teeny tiny sock bit going on, and all the stitches were getting stabbed in a way that they were getting split, and it made me feel like I was doing something wrong. But then I switched back to a trusty pair of Chalgu red lace needles with a long cord so I could do magic loop, and lo and behold, it didn't split at all. I was beginning to blame the yarn and curse a lot, um, but then I realized, oh, it's the needle doing this to me. So for many reasons, I have a ton of pairs of the Chalgu red lace fixed circular needles, and I have them in lots of different containers. My majority of my needles are in a worm binder from Bass Pro Shop, which is basically a lunchbox with a ring binder on the inside, and it holds um, zipper bags, like Ziploc bags, into the ring binder, and each of the Ziploc bags has a different size of needle in it, um, multiple pairs. So I have lots and lots of them in there. But that case is so full of so many needles, it's not practical to just have it out and about for everyday use. It's just, heavy storage. So then I found this thing. It is by Redesigned, and it is the Project 82 needle case, and I am in love with this thing. It fits in most of my knitting bags. I tend to prefer larger knitting bags, and it holds practically every size of needle I could ever want. And it holds multiple pairs. So there are a lot of needles in here and still room for more. And I have a Chalgun needle sizer in the pocket, so that I know exactly what's what. But the needles are arranged in size order, so I pretty much know which ones are where without having to size them, um, and figure out what they are. So, anyway, this thing is so wonderful. It was a bit of a splurge. I got it from my local yarn store, which is Fiber Space in Alexandria, and I totally love it, and it goes with me everywhere my main knitting project goes. So I've just been extremely happy with that. Um, Now, if I could figure out the physics of why my interchangeable needles always come apart on me, that would be really great, because they start out really tight and then they don't stay that way. And it's kind of a sad pain in the you know what. So I basically don't use interchangeable needles. And interestingly enough, the when the Chalgu Forte version 2 came out, um, the smaller sizes were made of carbon fiber, and the larger sizes are still made of the African blackwood. But the smaller sizes are the ones I use most often. And wouldn't you know it, the carbon fiber needles come apart from the cables for me. I don't know why the wood ones don't, and the carbon fiber ones behave like every other interchangeable needle I've ever had. But, it's maybe just one of the quirks about me and the way that I knit. So, anyway, it is what it is. And I've found a solution that works for me right now. Anyway, so I am very glad of this. And that's pretty much the main things I wanted to talk to you about today, except I wanted to ask, other than podcasts, what are some good things that I should be watching this summer while I'm knitting? I do watch a lot of podcasts and a lot of true crime, but I really would like to come across some good movies. I have seen Remarkably Bright Creatures on Netflix, which is a wonderful little film that if you haven't seen it, you probably should. Um, it's based on a novel that my book club that I belong to read a few months ago, and I was really proud of Netflix that they did such a good job on the adaptation for the movie. They're not famously known for doing good adaptations. Um, for instance, the Virgin River series that they ran on Netflix is completely different from the books. And if you've read the books, the TV series is just horrible. So if you like the TV series, don't read the books because then you'll understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, so I was proud that Netflix finally did a movie where they didn't really kill the story. So yeah, that one was definitely worth watching. But now, what else should I watch? I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts down below because I've still got a lot of knitting to do on this blanket. I need to occupy my time in the evenings while I'm doing all of that knitting. And so let me know what you like to watch, and also let me know what kind of needles you use and what works best for you. Do you have anything unusual about your knitting supplies that you like to use? I'd love to hear your stories about the things that work for you and how you've managed to figure it all out, because sometimes I see things that look like great solutions and they're really not. And then there's other things I see that are wonderful. Um, and I've become a very adaptable and adjustable person. And I am always looking for new and interesting and better ways to do things. So let me know what some of your favorite tips and tricks are, and maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that on a future episode. Um, Also, I wanted to say that the good thing about my blanket right now is I'm so glad that it's almost done, but um, it's summer and blankets are heavy. But when I'm knitting, I'm sitting right here at this table, and the project is um, in front of me, actually on the table rather than on me. So having a table in front of me allows me to put the knitted project up away from my body so it doesn't kill me by being on my lap and making me too hot to work on it. So um, that is one of the tricks that works for me as well. Um, and then what should we do next after that? You know what? I've never made a garment that's supposed to fit. I wear dresses pretty much all the time because they're easier for me to manage, but I'm thinking I would like to come up with a couple of little cropped sweaters to go over my dresses in the fall. Um, and I'm trying to think of what would be the easiest if I've never actually made a garment that's supposed to fit. Um, what would be the easiest way to learn? Um, that's something I've never conquered, and I have a huge fear of making things that have to fit. So I'd like to be able to get over it. As you might be able to tell, my torso is bigger than um, my bust measurements, so I would need to be able to modify whatever I make to fit my shape, such as it is. I don't know, is this a pear or a marshmallow, or I don't know what you call me, but I'm still interested in learning to make a garment that would actually fit me. So, any ideas that you might have about how to conquer that next thing, let me know because I'm interested in hearing them. And Lord knows I have a ton of sweater quantities of yarn in my stash that have been there, all of them, since I bought them and have never been put to use because I have a fear of sweaters and I really shouldn't, I know. But anyway, throw it at me. Your best sweater advice. Thanks. I would certainly appreciate it. And maybe we can conquer it together if you also have never made a sweater. Who knows? Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up from here. And hopefully, I'll be back next week with something new and exciting to talk about. Sorry if I'm not terribly exciting today, but um, I do want to at least try to be consistent and, um, so we can build something here. And please reach out to me and let me know what you think and what you'd like to talk about, and we will go from there. Anyway, it was fun talking to you today, and I look forward to next week. See you then. Bye bye.